Hello, welcome to the channel. Today we are building an HTMX form. We're going to use Hono and Bun, and most importantly we'll try Zod library to add validation, and also there is a nice middleware available for Zod in Hono. We'll use that to simplify the code. So as you can see, we already have a simple application. To get to this state, you can just run Hono create app and select Bun as a runtime, and you'll see something like that. We rename the index TS to index TSX because we're going to use HTML or JSX inside the code. So after you've done that, we can run bun run dev, and it will start our local development server. If we refresh this page, we have our response back. So I want to try this layout approach, so we can create a layout component. Here we go. And now if we change our text to HTML, and inside we can create layout, and we can put some children elements here saying hi. And if we refresh the page, we see our HTML back. And also I want to add two scripts, one for HTMX itself and the second one for styles for Tailwind. And we can try that with adding class, let's say text red 500. In the home page, let's just add an href to a form page. We don't want any styles. Let's say create item, and we want to add now new roots. So one will be for get the form page. So we want to return here HTML as well, and we want to use our layout, and here we'll build a form. So let's do form, and we want label, let's say just email and name or something like that. Second one, name, and here we'll have actually let's change the order. So we want input, and here input as well, and at the end we want button save. Let's also try to add forms plugin to Tailwind and see if that will improve how our form looks. Let's move this into a div and this into a div as well, so we have them separate. Yeah, I think that will work for now. And after that, we want to add HTMX attribute. So on submit form, we'll execute post method to /form. And for that, we want to add a new root. So now we'll have app.post form. And we have our context again. And we want to return something. And let's say that we want for now just to return a div with a message OK. Let's refresh. And if we save it, we see that we executed an AJAX request from HTMX. It was hitting this form endpoint, and we now replaced our form with OK. So to get data from the body, we can do, let's say form, it will be c.request dot parse body, I believe. And it's promise, so we need to wait, and this will be a sync. And instead of OK, let's put JSON string here with the form data. Let's refresh. If we put something here and here, click save, it's still empty because we forgot to add the names here. So name will be name, and here name will be email. Now we have this inside our post handler. So the next thing is that we want to validate that, let's say, name is non-empty string, email is non-empty string, and email as a valid email. And if that's not correct, we want to keep the form with initial values that the user typed, and also we want to show an error message somewhere. There is a section about validation, so that different types, different approaches that you can use in Hono. You can use manual validator. You have a lot of control. You can implement how you want, but I think for us it's mostly interesting to use an existing library. Zod is a nice library to create schemas in JavaScript, TypeScript, and you can use just Zod, but also there is a Zod middleware that will simplify things a lot. So I'll just copy this, and we can go to the terminal and add the dependency. So that's good. After that, we want to add our new import. And this is an example of the validator. So we just get this block, and notice that we put it after the pass as a second argument before our handler function. So we can move this to a new line and put it right here. So that is for Zod itself, and we want this import as well. So now that should probably work. Let's refresh the page, click save. Nothing happens, but I think that's because we now have an invalid response. So if we call inspector and we go to the network tab, if we click save here, we see now that we have a 400 bad request. That's not that's kind of what we want, because we define a schema right here, and what we pass in the form is not correct now. But we want to return custom response, because in HTMX you kind of expect HTML as response. So here's the link with a bit more docs about the middleware itself. And somewhere here, we have an example that in validator we can pass schema, and then we can pass the result. So this is the hook that we will call when we do the validation, and we can check that it wasn't successful. And in case it wasn't successful, we can return what we want. So for HTMX, we will return an HTML snippet here. So let's move here, and we want to add our schema separately. Let's call it form schema, and we want name and email. So name will be a string, and let's say min 1, max 10, whatever. And then email will be just, I think there is an email, or it is string.email. And also with Zod, we can, if we're using TypeScript, we can create a type based on schema. So we can do this, type form schema, and then from form schema, something like that. So let's use our new schema right here. We need a comma. And now let's first of all add some logs. So let's say that validator, and let's put the result here so we can see how it looks. We changed our validator back to form here instead of JSON because we're using the form params. And then we have our log now, and we have data, and we have the success flag, which is false. And after that, we have a list of errors, and we'll use those errors to basically display them in the form. What we want to fix next is we want to fix the return type here to be HTML, and we want to let's put something for now, but we'll use a shared component for our form soon here. So for now, let's put just div, and we can add JSON stringify, and we put our result here for now. So let's refresh this, and yeah, so now you see that we have HTMX now is replacing our HTML element, which is good. But as this form is used here and we want to use it as a component, let's copy this thing, cut it out, and then we create a new const form component. We want to return this form. Now we can replace this thing to use our form component, and also we can use it in here in the response. So let's just use it inside form component. We don't need this return for now. Let's refresh. And now you see we don't have values that we passed. First of all, let's fix that. So let's call this like data, and then we will return result.data. And we now expect here data, and data will have value, so it will be data.name, value data.email. And I think the type should be form schema for that. So we can do data should be form schema. We now have a problem right here. So data, let's put null there. And we can change this to be or null. And now this should be like this. Now we save it, and we can see that nothing changes. And that's because on the error, we still returning the same form with original values that they were passed. But there is no indication that there was a validation failure. Let's add something here. We can do something like errors. And errors will be from this result.errors, I believe it was. Let's refresh. So yeah, it's error and then issues, right? So let's check that out. So we want error.issues. Yeah, that's good. And we want to pass that into our form. So it will be errors like this. And type of that is, I believe, Zod issue. Okay, so now we have errors. Type of that is Zod issue, and it's like an array. And want to pass a div, and let's just print the entire thing here. So on JSON.stringify and errors. Okay, and for this thing we want, like, let's put an empty vector for now. So we're saving that, and now we see that we had validation problem. The last thing is to split that, I believe, into components. So let's move this thing into a separate component. Let's say name input. Return this, and we should have now name here and error. So name will be the value, and we should have an optional thing here. Let's say div, and it will contain our error. And let's put some red color on that. Text red 500. Should be like this. Now we want to change this to be name input. Name will be data.name, and error, and we'll fix that in a second. So let's create a function that get error message, and the input will be errors and say label for now. So what we want to do is we want to return const error, and we want to filter errors. We want to find error where path 0 equals label. And we want to return the message. Something like that. And we can fix types later when we want them. So error here will be our errors, and we pass the label, which will be name. And let's refresh this. We have now a problem somewhere. So this could be empty thing, right? And let's refresh. Yeah, we now want to remove this old section, so we don't have duplicated names. If we keep that empty and we save, we now see this red arrow here, because we filtered our error message right here and passed it into our component for the input. If I add something and save, it now disappears. So what we want to do next is to do the same for the email component. We want to move it right here. We do const email input, email error, and want to return things like this. So it will be now email, and want to add the same thing here to display an error. Email input email will be data.email, and the error will be get error message errors email. Let's refresh the code and save. So we have invalid email here, and we have a message string must contain at least 1 characters at the top. So we change that to a valid email. This goes away, and if we change this to something, we now have a passed the validation and we have successful result. There are much more about Zod library. So for example, if you don't want default messages that are not too human readable, there is an option to override the message, and also you can override message for custom error messages. I think that's all for the video. You should have some basic understanding how you can build a form in HTMX with some validation, and hope that will be useful in your next application. That's all for today. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next video. Bye bye.